Happy Wednesday, UnWoke Nation. I'd like to welcome you to episode 103 of the UnWoke Show, where free speech is welcome, all subjects are on the table, and your boys Rich and Tim bring you the latest and greatest information for your entertainment, baby. I'm your host, Rich, along with my co-host here. How you doing, Timmy?
Oh, great, Rich, man. We're back again. Wednesday, speaking with the UnWoke Nation. Guys, we're going to do a little housekeeping as we always do before we kick off each episode. And we're going to start with, guys, if you're new to the podcast or you got friends that are trying to find out where can they find the UnWoke Show, guys, we are on all the major podcasting platforms. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, Boomplay. Guys, wherever you're getting your podcast, tune in. Do a search for us. You'll find us plenty of great content out there. You can also reach us at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Again, that is feedback@unwoketheshow.com. And Rich, where are we going tonight, man?
Well, man, we are going to one of my favorite subjects for anybody who happens to know me. I know Tim does. Well, you guys out there in UnWoke Nation, my favorite time of the year isn't Christmas. It's not New Year's. It's not anything like that. My favorite time is actually towards the end of August, called college football season.
Yes, college football.
I love me. That is my Christmas, guys. I love college football, everything about it. It makes Saturday so much more fun. But, you know, we're going to be talking about, you could say, what would you say, Tim? Like the dark side of what college football is. And part of that dark side that's been going on has to do with what we call one being the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And specifically where so-called the NIL, which they officially call it name, image, and likeness. But I like to call it, basically now it's legal. So,
yes,
we had a recent situation that happened just this past Saturday regarding a marquee player from the University of Tennessee, well, now formerly from the University of Tennessee.
Right.
And also named Nico Iamaleava, and I'm probably butchering his name and apologize for that. And also, but he basically made some really good controversy this past week, and also because of, this whole thing having to do with NIL. So for those of you guys out there on UnWoke Nation who do not know him, he is a former quarterback for the University of Tennessee Volunteer, Go Vols, but he is also a former five-star recruit who's had some pretty impressive stats last year, according to this past season, where he had over 2,600 passing yards and about 19 touchdowns last season, was able to actually lead his team to the playoffs, which I think they eventually ended up losing in the second round to the eventual national champions being the Ohio State Buckeyes. Right. But going into this recent season, we have switcheroos happening all the time. And the reason why Nico made a splash, I guess you could say, or maybe not a splash.
No, he definitely didn't make a splash on this one.
So it happens to do with what we discussed about his NIL deal. So to fill you guys in a little bit with that, so for the NIL deal, sources basically shows when this initially started is that according to sources where he was able to sign an NIL deal with Tennessee, because a lot of these schools now have what's called a collective. Mm-hmm. And for those of you guys who don't know, we have people who put money into these schools to be able to give to the athletes. For that. Yeah, basically lots of boosters and different things like that. Or so they are called collectives. And so I guess shortly after he committed to USC, I'm sorry, not USC, to the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, the deal paid him more than $8 million over the course of 4 years. However, this is actually coming from the source of this BleacherReport.com. Shout out to Bleacher Report. However, the representative reportedly sought a raise. His representative reportedly wanted a raise of $4 million for the upcoming season, which Tennessee said, go fuck yourself.
So it's important to understand who's representing him.
Yes.
It's his father, number one. And second, it's a close family friend who was a University of Florida representative, I think it said in the particular article.
Yes.
Okay. So family's always sticky.
Yeah.
Okay. Always sticky. Mm-hmm. And it's fair to say, based off the research that we've done, that he's getting bad advice.
I would agree. Right? He really, really is. This is the way I look at it. It's like, I know that we were looking at some tweets pre-show, and there was a tweet that actually came out about 7 hours ago from Colin Cowherd, who is co-host of, the host of the show The Herd. And he had been told, which is basically the new upcoming information, because the transfer portal actually opened up today.
Right.
And so I think, he went out there, put his name where, and according to what is, I think, would you say, Tim, it's not really official? So that
it's being reported.
The ink is not exactly dry just yet.
Has it even been laid down on paper? I think.
Yes.
Right? That would be the other thing. But again, what's prompting this is clearly the people representing Iamaleava. They looked at, what Carson Beck got. Mm-hmm. Right.
Who ended up going from Georgia to the Miami of Florida.
Yep.
The U.
CJ Carr. Mm-hmm. Steve Angeli and Kenny Minchie, right? Mm-hmm. They're looking at where these guys all went and what the money that they were getting.
Yeah. Right.
So there's this is not even I'm fumbling with words because it's one of these situations. He's not testing the market, right? He's out at Tennessee.
Yes,
that divorce is done, over with. There's no going back.
Exactly
to that as well. It's not one of these. You can't go out and explore, look, see if there's any interest whatsoever.
But here's the thing. It's like, when we started doing research on the story, this going back to Saturday, so it was literally breaking news about 12 noon about this. And the reason why it became breaking news is because there was already talks about him, not being happy with what his NIL was going on, stuff like that. But I think what really made it worse was that, every year, as most college football teams normally have their spring game. Well, it turns out the Tennessee spring game was actually that day on Saturday. And from what it was reported is that he not only did not go to the meetings on Friday, but he didn't even attend practice.
Right.
And so I think that with there being the situation that his, quote, representatives wanted him to have, this amount of money and I want to be able like that, they basically said, Tennessee was like, we're not dealing with that. So now when you talk about, him, well, maybe he's out there kind of filling out the markets like that. Well, apparently from the article that I read from ESPN, if I'm understanding this correctly, while all this was going on and they couldn't come to terms of what they want to do to keep him there as a volunteer, he took some time, or maybe his representatives took some time to reach out to at the last year's basically majority of the year was number one team, Oregon, to see if they might have been interested. Yeah. And they said, nah, we don't have nothing to do with this.
So here's a great from the ESPN article that we're referencing here. It says UCLA has been perceived as a contender for the Southern California native almost by default, despite adding veteran Appalachian State transfer Joey Aguilar in the winter portal window. It's worth noting the Bruins previously held a commitment from Iamaleava's younger brother, Madden, before he flipped to Arkansas in December. So there's already a hurdle from his camp to overcome. Madden Iamaleava had been the local gem of UCLA coach Deshaun Foster's first full recruiting class, but he and Long Beach Poly teammate Jace Brown bailed on the Bruins on signing day for Arkansas.
Wow. That's so, Tim, when you look at that you have now, I guess you could say the little brother, was committed to something and then he leaves for another team, basically the day of National Signing Day.
Right. And
now the other brother who's done very, very well at Tennessee, now sits there and goes like, well, dag, well, I guess I'm going to leave too.
Yeah, well, it gets better. It goes from the timing to the public nature of the exit to the attention he'd drawn upon arrival. There's a general vibe of hesitancy around the market. Essentially, coaches see a narrow path to success with the time frame, learning the offense, and the pressure on Iamaleava to produce at the amount he's expected to be paid. according to one Power 4 general manager, he said there's absolute zero interest.
Oh, so we can't truly say that he's with UCLA? Because that's what I was kind of wondering too, because I mean, it's saying, so Kyle Herter's trying to say that he's going to UCLA. According to his tweet here, he says, I am told moments ago, Nico Iamaleava is going to UCLA. Family still claims it is not in capitals.
Right.
About the money, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about the volunteer football offense. I was not told what the Bruins are paying. Okay. We want to talk about the offense. I mean, it's a major passing off. Like I said, I'm an SEC fan, and also I have my favorite team.
Sure.
And also, I know they had one of the best defenses at one point where I think they were third in the nation when it came to sacks. They had all these different things, so they were a very high-powered type of offense. So it's about the offense. Like, really?
Everybody from last year was returning.
Yes. It made no sense.
So there's a level of continuity. Again,
and you expect us to believe that it's not about the money?
Yeah. When the dad is in your ear, and then the supposed trusted family friend is in your ear saying you can go and get more money. Mm-hmm. Well, how well is that working out for you right now?
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up, Tim, because we were trying to find a lot of people who are closer to a lot of the sources of, these type of programs, and actually we've happened to find a guy that was talking about it on with Doug Gottlieb, on what's called the #1 college football show, and actually R.J. Young, I guess he must be the one of the top college football reporters, and I was actually talking about that, and it seems like it was actually talked about it earlier today in regards to how he felt amongst the market and how people thought of Nico were. So check this out.
Back, indubitably, this is a divorce that is finalized. He has entered the portal, and it seemed like after he entered the portal, the market that he expected to be there disintegrated beneath him overnight. And right now, it feels like the only program that he's trending toward is UCLA. But as with all things Nico Iamaleava the last 4 days, until we see such a time that everybody involved has announced that he is going to transfer to wherever it is he's transferring, we're going to treat it as if he is one of the best talents in the portal with the most baggage.
And that is 100% a fair assumption to make. Mm-hmm. This isn't us attacking Nico. No. Okay. Rich and I both agree he's getting bad advice.
Yes.
Okay? We put that out there. He is, and so it's out there. I think this speaks bigger to when the transfer portals open and close.
Yes.
Okay.
Which opened today.
Yeah. Well, then there was the winter time.
Yes. Yeah. There was a previous one. You're right.
Right. So should there be one transfer portal time frame?
Yeah. So if you're asking me that question as a football fan, it's like, yeah, I mean, like for high school kids, because obviously, they get 2 national signing days. All right.
Right.
So I get that, where sometimes, it takes a little bit of time, for kids but these guys being in college, I think should be just one. I think that the fall one or whatever it is should be more than enough time to be able to figure out what it is you want to go. Because, at that point, season's kind of over. It's, whatever. And I don't know if you want to call it fall. We'd probably have to look that, up for that, but that fall, winter, whatever it is, where when that tends to open, especially after the season, I think that's a perfect time to say, it's like, okay, you guys at this point, there's several things, plus with college football. There are several things that are going on, okay? Number one, we just got done playing the national championship. Okay, that's all fine, all right? Number two, you get some of these kids who are going to be basically spending the next 3 months who are getting ready for the NFL draft, stuff like that. But it's the off season. You don't have any football going on until April, which is right now, about spring games and stuff like that. I think that is a good amount of time if you want to do it in January. And I guess you might want to say open because obviously you're going to have, now that we have more teams playing in the playoff like that, so you might open just a little bit early. I don't know how you could explain. You know what I'm trying to say?
I get that. This has been a hot debated topic. Even Coach Saban on College Game Day has brought up the whole transfer portal and when things open and everything like that, right? So there's that piece of it. I think the second piece to the NIL is the money itself. The NCAA got themselves in trouble.
Pandora's box.
Yes, got themselves in a huge bit of trouble because they were making billions.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't collegiate sports, right? These students were employees of the university bringing in millions. They weren't getting their share.
Right. See, and we don't argue the fact that these are programs that were making millions and millions of dollars, where it's like, you know, when Baylor University, I remember seeing these statistics, when Baylor University was one of the top schools out there, you know, when RG3 was there,
right?
You know, so I didn't realize this at all, but at the time that he was there and they were starting to become a household name in college football, they had brought in like $35 million.
Right.
You know, so as an organization, so as the program started getting better and better, so we understand that we want to give the kids a little bit of something. But I'm reading this article, and you're absolutely right. It has nothing to do with Nico specifically, because this is going on all across the country, not just in football. It's going on in basketball.
But this is the first high profile. Let's call it high profile. And this won't be the last. But I get back to my point about the NCAA. You know, originally it was supposed to be amateur athletics, right? National Collegiate Amateur Athletics Association, right? The NCAA, or the National Collegiate Athletics Association. Yeah, all about the amateur and amateur sports, right? And you were going to get your money if you were good enough. You were going to get your money when you went to the NFL, and then you started throwing in arguments about, well, what if kids don't make it to the NFL and they have nothing after 4 years of college? They should get something for this likeness thing, right? And should the athletes that play sports in college get something?
Well, you see, I think
based off the revenue of, like, you're selling their jersey numbers, you know, their pictures are on things, right? Should there be something in the form of the money that you have generated will help pay for your college, for example?
And I get that. Go,
right.
Thought, man.
So if you commit, so let's say Nico committed for 4 years. If we look at what his potential likeness would bring in for 4 years, a potential likeness value of, say, over $1 million. Okay. You go to Tennessee, it's $500,000 for 4 years. You're left over with a credit of $500,000 or whatever. Okay, that's yours when you leave. There's your launching off point.
Right.
But being paid essentially to $2.2 million for 4 seasons.
And remind you, he was being paid while he was in high school.
Yeah, being paid while you're in high school. This isn't amateur athletics. This isn't collegiate sports. This is the NFL Junior League, or this is or what is it? The UFL. Right.
For spring football, right.
Yeah, this is college sports, UFL, as a prelude to jumping to the NFL, right?
Right. See, and that's the thing about it. So when I heard about the story on Saturday, and I was trying to do a little bit of research on it because I thought this would be a great show. It's like to listen about what was going on, and also I got halfway through the article that I was reading on ESPN, and was just thinking to myself, like, what am I reading here?
Right.
Like, seriously, what am I reading? We're sitting up there as college football fans. It's like, you know, reading about this kid trying to figure out, like, how he's going to make more money. And then we started hearing all the allegations of where that him, along with a few other players, I think the game prior to maybe the Ohio State game, were actually basically saying, like, look, you know, we're not suiting up until we figured, you guys figured out a way to get us more money. It's almost like you're basically, what would you say, like blackmail, you're hijacking.
Well, I mean, you could call it blackmail. You could call it whatever. But Nico he initially had some leverage, right? But when you look at the situation, that leverage in the market disappeared instantly.
Yes. Exactly.
And so I, as we're talking this out back, debating this back and forth, he is reaping the reward, if you want to call it that,
right,
for poor advice and poor decisions being made behind the scenes.
Yes. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. It's like that, the fact that you're playing yourself in a situation. And here's the thing. It's like, because the SEC, which is very much a quarterbacks type of conference. It's a quarterbacks type of league. If this didn't go through, it's like, and we're already talking like Heisman and stuff like that. It's
right.
Like, he probably is a person that says, okay, based on his numbers, where he probably has a really good shot at trying to do that. And also, but now you're allegedly, where you're going to a team like UCLA, who finished 5-7 last year.
Now you're playing in the Big Ten.
Exactly. And you're playing the Big Ten. So you're going to play your Ohio States. You're going to play your Michigans. You're going to play all, your Oregons in there who didn't want you.
Right.
So you're going to be playing all these different things. Like, it's a completely different situation. And so, so I guess that's what just kind of saddens me as a college football fan, is just the fact that, I told someone once, like, and even me, so I love my Alabama, but it's kind of like, right now, I don't know if, you have players that come in, I don't know if you're going to be there next year.
No.
I just don't know. So it's like, who am I cheering for? It's like, what happened to, head coach of women's, who just won national championship, Gino Iamaleava, just got done saying, he made a very good press conference speech where he basically said, it's like, what? He says, why don't we just call this pro college basketball and let's just get over the charade?
Right.
And I have to agree with him on that. It's like, this is what it is where. So they had, we just saw the WNBA drafts just 2 days ago. Okay. Ugh. And we had players who would easily be drafted. Mm-hmm. And also one particular player ended up drafting out, and like that's what's going to be the number 2 prospect coming into this year's draft on Monday, but decided to transfer to Texas Christian. Now, the reason why I ain't going to sit there and go is like, well, why would that be? Because you said, why would you want to stay in college like that? Because they know that the amount of money that can be made through NIL deals is much, much bigger than what they would get in their rookie contract playing in the WNBA. Mm-hmm. So they're willing to stick around and do something like that. Floji Johnson, who's one of the guards, or a great guard, for LSU, mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, she decided to stay for another year. She definitely probably would have been top 10.
Right,
but she decided to stay. It's like, of course, she's got with this financial app company and all this. So she's making her good.
Well, but she's also says she's a rapper as well.
Yeah, she does rap music and does all that stuff. So it's like, a lot of these players are just kind of like, I can go to this league or that league, but why? Why should I even do it? I mean, it's like we were growing up as kids going like, it's the greatest thing ever to be a professional athlete. But now it's almost like because of NIL and because of what the NCAA has now done, they basically have diminished that.
Right.
Where it's like as a college athlete, where depending on what sport it is, it's not a big deal to go pro when you have that award. So they talked about the whole situation like with Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg, hands down, one of the great players of this past season we just got done witnessing.
Right.
All right. But they were already talking about, it's like, what? The likeness is, man, you're probably going to be going to play for one of the worst teams in the league. But that happens every year. But I did hear this one guy sit there and said, it's like, look, basically, it was almost like he was trying to talk to Cooper if he was hearing. It's like, basically, if you can hear me, Cooper.
Stay where you're at.
Exactly. It's like, well, no, actually, he was saying it's like, whatever team you're trying to dodge, it's going to be there the next year.
Right. Yeah, I would.
It's like,
so Tennessee finished 10-3.
Yeah.
UCLA 5-7.
5-7 in their first year in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Oh, which, by the way, what their first Big Ten loss was? Who? Indiana.
Yeah.
On their own field. Mm-hmm. No one who is a betting man would think that I wouldn't say smaller, but Indiana, not really known for a football program, they are now, but not really known as a football program, would walk into Los Angeles, go into Pasadena for a program that's kind of known for a bit because you're going back to Brian Kelly and stuff like that, So of having a pretty decent football program over the course of the last maybe 10, 15 years and actually lose. It's like, really? So now you're going to go here. You got this coach right here. You're coming in at 5-7. You didn't even get a bowl game, obviously. So, and then...
And you expect to be paid $8 million?
Exactly.
No.
It's like, that makes...
If you're UCLA,
mm-hmm.
and, because we can speak for hours of this. If you're UCLA, do you make that investment?
I mean, the fact that we don't even know if the rumors are true that he's even discussing terms with them, the only way that I'm thinking is just because Knoxville compared to Los Angeles, much bigger market.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't. But is it worth it?
No. It is market a factor when it comes to college football? No, conference. Market would be the NFL.
Yeah,
okay.
but we're just sticking with college football. So I would agree with you. I think conference does make a difference, but I think brand makes a difference too. Okay, because it kind of makes me wonder. Let's say this had been Ohio State, okay, which he just got done losing to,
right?
And also the question is like, okay, now I have a interest to where they're in Columbus and Ohio State and UCLA. I have a chance where to play for the national champions. It's a bigger brand than UCLA. They are in the same conference.
Do you know who the last famous UCLA player was?
No.
Football player?
Nope.
Zach Charbonnet. He was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in 2023. Jake Brendel, Kenny Clark,
mm-hmm.
who are both now in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they've had a couple. I mean, obviously, Troy Aikman, some legendary UCLA players.
But in recent history?
No.
Exactly.
Not really. It's like, this is what you're going to do and remind you, not only do you have to win, but you got to pad your numbers because I know you want to play on Sunday. It's like, that's the best you could have done. It's UCLA. It's like, how often are people going to be watching, which is part of the reason why the Pac-12 had such a problem because no one wanted to stay up till 9:30, 10 something at night to sit there and watch a game.
So here's a list for you.
Mm-hmm.
John Henderson. Eric Berry, Peyton Manning,
mm-hmm.
Reggie White,
mm-hmm.
Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
What do they all have in common?
What? Rocky Top.
Yep. And they're all college football Hall of Fame inductees from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in other words,
it's who's not on that list? Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah. I mean, we'd already been hearing about the guy the year before when Tennessee was number 1 in the country. Okay, so...
You tell me you don't want to be a part of that list?
Exactly. You don't want to be a part of that. It's like, and even some of the key wins that they had last year to make up that 10-3. They beat Alabama. They had beaten Texas. They've beaten a couple teams. So that's
You're on the SEC stage.
Right. Exactly. I had a guy I met once that he was telling his nephew who played football back. I think he was this guy. So because they were from Illinois, and he sat and he told him, he told his nephew, he's like, look, he says, I don't care what team you play for. He was being recruited. He says, I don't care what college football team you play for, but if it comes to the SEC, play for anybody.
Yeah.
That's what he told him. He's like, and I said, well, why did you end up telling him that? He says, because guarantee you're going to be playing your Alabamas, you're going to play your Auburns, you're going to play all those teams, because obviously Texas and Oklahoma weren't in the league yet, but you're playing all these guys and you're going to be primetime television that if you want to play on Sunday, your ass is on there at 3:30 on a Saturday afternoon. So you get to play for anything. Sign your butt up to Kentucky. You might get killed, but if you're playing good ball, scouts are going to notice because it's the SEC. So yeah. So now you've basically put yourself at the bottom of the barrel of the Big Ten, and when you could have been at the top of stage of a Tennessee team that's probably going to be in the top 10 this upcoming fall.
So
really. So, and like I said, man, you know me, I love college football, so I can talk about it all day.
Yeah, but this is a case. It's unfortunate for Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I think you can say on a certain level, it's unfortunate for Nico because he got and is getting bad advice.
Yeah.
Okay. This situation is definitely a result of the NIL.
Yes.
Is also a result of the transfer portals.
Yes.
Okay. Which is all things the NCAA have to fix.
They're going to have to fix this because the thing is that what I see happening, first off, where I see this getting worse, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I see this get worse. And again, it's not just football.
Agreed.
I see this getting worse in basketball. We saw a player who played at the University of Michigan, and in the middle of the tournament, Cicerone says, yeah, guys, I want to transfer. You're in the middle of the fucking tournament. You couldn't have waited till after the tournament.
Well, they were doing that. Yeah, they were doing that during the bowl series too.
Yeah, it's just kind of like you literally. It's like that. Okay, wait a minute. We're playing in the national semifinal, and guess what, Coach? I want $2 million more, or I'm not suiting up.
Bye, Felicia.
Exactly. It's like, see, this is why I liked what I'm forgetting his name and also the head coach of Miami, Florida, when he was asked about this particular situation later that day by the press. And basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he says, like, look, he says, if you have a player that wants to sit there and say, we need to pay up, it's like basically saying, we need you to get out.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing here. But that's basically what it said. But hats off to a coach like that saying, like, the whole purpose, like, do you want to play here? Are you willing to be committed to play here? If you don't, even Coach Arrieta was after and said, like, you know what? If we pay you $4 or $5 million and you decide you want to leave or something like that, Gabe, tell you what, we're getting a buyout.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one leverage that will be constant, and we can tie it off right here with that, is as long as colleges stick to the fact you are not bigger than the university.
Yes.
That will always be, I think, the leverage. Mm-hmm. If you're, obviously you want to win, you want to make championships, but at the end of the day, as long as you stick to that mantra, that's going to be, I don't want to say your saving grace in situations like this. But it definitely gives colleges the ability to say, okay, time to move on.
Right.
We're here for the betterment of the program, not for the betterment.
And like I said, whatever money they give them or you want to leave, okay, whatever's left, give us back.
Yeah. So, UnWoke Nation, we'd love to get your feedback on this story, guys. You can reach us at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Again, that is feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Rich, a pleasure as always, man. And remember, stay unwoke.
See you next time, guys.